Hello, everybody.
Cool.
So are we waiting on Robert or did did he
Yeah,
say he couldn't join?
I assume so. I don't know. So I just chatted with him like 20 minutes ago, so I assume he's available. Um, Let me ping him. Hmm, he's not answering on my request. Keith, do you know if an agenda is prepared for today? Um,
I I don't think so. I guess my other observation is it seems like maybe the only external attendee we have is Angelina.
yeah. So the question is if anybody has points then for today, because then we just start without Rob, and if he comes, joins, and have an agenda, we can check that.
Um, Ivan and Georgie, we actually met on Friday, and one of the ideas we had was that we make this a meeting for all people working on the SDK, including LimeChain people and Hashgraph people. Do you think that this would work for the LimeChain people for everyone to attend this meeting?
Um, yeah, it could be possible, but I'm not quite sure if we need everyone here. For the most part, we discuss documentation and stuff like that. Um, I don't remember when we discussed something that, for example, needs someone from a specific SDK to answer, and most of the time I can answer most of the stuff.
Yeah. So
So I
so
would
what we
like
discussed
to,
was that we're gonna maybe propose that we move a lot of topics that we talk about in our internal meetings to this meeting, like reviewing the design proposals or reviewing the implement. Like a lot of the stuff we discuss in the maybe in the sprint meeting or the other meetings will move to this meeting.
yeah, I'm fine with that. If we can sync in advance so that people know what exactly they need to prepare. I think last time Vilo showcased the simple fees, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, I'm okay with that. Yeah, and I think we also need Sim here because she's the one who actually knows in detail what we are working on, what we have in our
Yeah.
sprint
I,
and stuff like that.
yeah,
So
we would
she's
need,
the one who can, yeah, she's the best at coordinating stuff. For example, some task or some issue that she wants to take a look or yeah.
yeah, we would make this, everyone would attend, including Simi and everyone from the Hashcraft team. But I need to talk to her this week about this and, yeah, see what she thinks. So Hendrik, I mean, I'm going through my mind. I didn't have a lot of agenda items for this meeting. I think we're up to date. We've talked about all the design proposals. I mean, Ivan, or do you have any, is there any top things that we could discuss or are worth discussing? Again, with only one, I mean, maybe we can, I mean, Angelina, since it's our external attendee, I mean, maybe if she has any questions or anything like that.
No, I'm good. I didn't have anything to bring up at the moment.
So what I could bring in is give an overview about what happened so far on that topic I'm working on and talk about what the next steps I will work on. That's, I think, shortly done in like 5 to 10 minutes. For sure, we can do that. I see thumbs up from Key, so let me open my browser. Go to the hub and then we can have a look at it. Share here my, which one is it? That one. So going to the hub. Some of you have already started it, even reviewed it. So there are two things I would like to talk about. First one is this API guidelines documentation. I started under the SDK collaboration hub in the guides folder. Happy to share the link here in Zoom. If I, oh, here's the window, find the chat, it's that one. And that, it's not done. That's point one, but the idea behind that is define the language that we will use in the proposals to specify API that should be created, changed, updated, based on a proposal that is maybe coming from a HIP or from anything else. Let's go, I don't know, I just click on one. Okay, that's a bad example. Let's check another one. Here, we have here this new API section, right? And oh, here we have, no, not the SDK example. It's more about this new API section. So at this example, we see an API that is, yeah, a mix between some languages, looks a lot like JavaScript, especially with this promise and things like that. And the goal here is to define a meta language that we can use to define those updates and document those updates. As said, this is not 100% done. Things like extensions are missing, some other things are missing, Rob and I discussed about, but we decided to merge this initial step and do the things that are missing as additional pull requests on top. And the other thing is for all those different like annotations or base types that you can find here, to give an overview how that should be then implemented in language X. So Java as an example, how those types should be implemented in Java, including like if something is immutable annotated, that it should be set in Java directly in the constructor, that there should be only a getter. If it's a map, then that an immutable map is returned all the time, and things like that. So that is the goal that we have here, to have a common understanding and language independent of the SDK that at the end then does a concrete implementation of a feature, and best practices on how it can be implemented in an SDK. And we hope that this will, on the one hand, end in more consistent proposals, where at the end everybody can easily read them once that person looked at the API guidelines before. And on the other hand, create more consistent SDKs, because it's well defined how in Java or in Rust something should be implemented, and it should then be implemented all the time the same in Java as an example. And on the other hand, the SDKs are more consistent between the individual SDKs, because by having this meta language, we can really easily check if everything is implemented in each SDK. So that is the idea here, where I'm currently working on. And the other thing is that since earlier today it's got committed, like half an hour ago, we have here a V3 sandbox, and this folder will be used to work on one prototype, whatever, in a kind of sandbox. Nothing that happens here is official, is like it must be like that. That is really like for prototyping and things like that, how the future of SDKs could look like, how a version 3 of SDKs could look like, what should maybe be changed, what should stay as it is, and so on. And so as a next step, Simi, who collected already several informations about community input and other inputs on that topic, she will add it here to the README, because it's coming from different places. It's even coming from a survey we did about the future of SDKs and so on. And what I did here is this prototype folder. This is the prototype that I created some time ago, where I looked on the one hand on this freeze and signing flow, and how that maybe can be done a little bit different. And on the other hand, on keys and how we create keys, and that there are some problems in the SDKs and so on. And I assume I will continue working on this project to try things out, to discuss APIs, but everybody is welcome to attend. And this is now a subfolder of the SDK hub, so that it's not in Hendrik's GitHub space anymore. So this is what happened here. And as said, as a next step, we would like to migrate everything we have about version 3 here into this README, or link to it. There's, for example, one discussion going on about v3, that one, here we go, that one should then be linked to the README too, and so on. So that is what I'm working on in parallel to creating these API specifications. And I hope that both together then really help us in the future for SDKs. The Hashgraph and our LimeChain team is maintaining SDKs. The other people, like the Python SDK, or SDKs that are maintained from other people, like the Python SDK, will come more easy and better together and be more consistent and all that. Yeah, that's what I can share here. My next steps are filling the gaps in the API guideline regarding what Rob and I think is needed now before we can say, hey, let's try this out and try to create proposals really based on that specification and try to not use anything that is not in that specification. We will see how that ends. And on the other hand, I got some feedback from people that are way better than me in like cryptography, algorithms, curves, and all that, where I got some additional input on the key handling and how to create keys, especially, and define keys. And I will add that into this sandbox prototype I have. And I assume present that then in a future SDK meeting. Any comments or questions on that? Keith.
So I guess I've had a question going on in my mind, and maybe this relates or doesn't relate, but like, what is the future of SDKs combined with AI? Because I've thought that one of the things that's kind of unique about the SDKs is like we will add a new feature to let's say the JavaScript SDK or the Java SDK. But this does seem to be one of those things where you could, if you had a trained AI on the other SDKs, you could say, hey, we've added this new feature, let's say like Hiero hooks to the Java SDK. Please look at it. Please look at the design. Okay, now add this same feature to the Java SDK or to the Python SDK. I mean, I don't know enough yet. I mean, I've never done it. This seems like something AI could maybe do. And therefore, if we think that's possible, what tooling should we be adding to help AI do that kind of feature addition?
So I assume that once you have this API guidelines and like information about, oh, what are the best practices to implement those API guidelines in language X. API that got those, like the guideline, the best practices for implementation, and a proposal into the context could be a good help to do the real implementation on the SDK. I agree on that. My personal point of view is with everything around AI and agent evolving so fast, I could not say today we should use exactly this format and this syntax because that is the best. I assume nobody knows that today, but creating those markdown files in a quite good, understandable way, I assume will be a very good help for the context of AIs to help you implement those features. I totally agree. Yeah.
I guess where I was going with that question is the APIs, I think, certainly help human developers maybe migrate changes, like understand and migrate changes between SDKs. Well, maybe you can answer this question. Do they or do they not help an AI developer if that ever became a thing? I don't think so. I mean, I don't think I don't think an AI developer would care. I would think a human developer cares.
Cares about what?
Well, no, sorry. Could leverage the APIs to help better understand the changes and migrate them between SDKs. I mean, is that the main goal of maybe Heather, I can just have you just re-articulate what the main goals of adding the APIs are. Is it like I thought it was about making it easier to migrate changes between the SDKs in a understandable way. Would you describe the benefits in other ways as well?
Yeah, I would say not migrate. So what I'm currently doing is more about the future. Like there's a new proposal coming up and how to create that proposal in best way and how as an SDK developer know what is the best way to implement that proposal with the public API that is specified in the proposal in my given language for the SDK. We do not talk so far about SDK A has a feature that SDK B do not have. How can we move that from A to B? I do not work at all at that topic. I really currently concentrate on a new proposal is coming. How can we do the best to get that proposal in the best way in all SDKs?
But could you just help me then? Like, so we do that today, right? We do that today. Like we just added, let's say, Hiero hooks to the Java SDK or the JavaScript SDK. How would what you're proposing make that process better or different than what we do
Yeah,
today?
sure. I mean, when going to which one is the hooks? Is it that one? Or is the hooks already now merged?
1195. I don't.
195. Let me check. Proposals. When I assume it's here, 1195. Here we go. So when looking at those new API section that we have here, we have now some of the things are added based on discussions we had, I think like 3 or 4 weeks ago about that proposal. But still now, this proposal is missing information that is important to implement it in all the different languages from a technical perspective in the same way. So let's say I want to have something, for example, that is immutable, that cannot be changed at all. It's not language specific that is immutable, right? So that should be part here of the generic metadata SDK or API definition, saying here we have something that should be immutable because of whatever, right? And those informations must be placed here so that somebody who now reads that knows how he can create a hook creation details, object, class, whatever, in the given language using the best language features that are available for exactly that. That is a goal here, and that the hook creation details is then written in a similar way as the Lambda EVM hook. I mean, sure, those are now run between each other, but let's assume the Lambda EVM hook is specified in another proposal. With this information that we see here, there are a lot of different ways how you could implement that in Java, or how you can implement that in Go, or how you could implement that in TypeScript. And that could end in, oh, person A implements things in this way, person B implements things in that way. And this is nothing like static code analysis can figure out, right? And for that, the goal is to have it specified as good as possible, because before I started, nothing was specified. this is without nothing being specified. The APIs that we have written here are already quite good. But, and I assume technical people or deeper technical people in the meeting will agree with me here, that this is written in a different way that I don't know which one we looked at some time ago with this promises and things like that. So all that from my point of view should be standardized to help us to at the end define the public API of the SDKs that should be technically and function from a functional point of view exactly the same in all the SDKs. And I hope that at the end, in this meta language, we just have like, oh, this is the metadata of the SDKs. And when a proposal got merged, we even change it directly in those metadata. Does that make sense?
So I don't think I was that. Thank you, Hendrik. I don't think I was that far off. Adding these APIs makes the design more understandable for people and helps them implement it across a range of SDKs. I think what I'm saying is there still going to be a human doing this implementation in the future?
I think yes.
They need...
yeah. I understand your question, and I would say yes. I mean, what happens in AI is crazy, right? But today, I would say yes, it needs a human because, and this is now another thing I would go further than we are today, and this is what I did, for example, in my prototype. So when we talk about a key, like we add a private key or a public key, in this meta API, you would say, okay, we have a type private key, and that maybe has like internal key as kind of bytes, and maybe has the type of the key, which is I always don't know this names of these curves, like what cryptographic curve this key is based on. Makes totally sense. You have one object description, two internals, boom, good. And giving that to an AI that only has that context would create something, maybe on the best practices on Java, which first of all makes sense. But from my point of view, we should not stop that because, and keys is a good example here. In Java, as an example, you already have for public and for private keys interfaces and definitions for the Java language, which if you integrate something in an enterprise system, in a bigger application or whatever used by Java, is used to exchange keys between parts of the application, to exchange keys with a key store and all that. And what we want to have is that keys are not only have the meta information written here in this API, but next to that have the integration of the programming language. And that is why I would not go that far and say, hey, here's an AI, I give it to it, and it should done it. In that case, you could even say we create a code generator that gets code that is specific in this meta API, and it, just creates the Java code based on the creator in the best way it could be. And I think both are not what are only a part of what we want to have at the end.
Yeah, I would say you made an assumption that AI would not do a good job of implementing keys in a different language, that it wouldn't understand the best way to implement keys. I would actually think that, it's something AI would be good at, is understanding the best way to implement keys in a different language, because it could analyze tons of other examples. But I could be wrong. I guess all I'm trying to say is that you were trying to set us up for a world of success where, yes, humans need to understand the design proposals and humans need to individually implement in the different SDKs. I'm just pushing back. Is that the world we're heading into? Or is the world we're heading into a world where, yes, we need a design proposal, that people can read and understand. Yes, we need probably a reference implementation, but once we have a solid reference implementation, maybe we need other tooling to support AI to implement these features across different SDKs. Because if we did that, we could have more SDKs. I mean, like we could have an officially supported Python SDK. So I guess that's what my thinking is.
Yeah. And I do not disagree on that. Absolutely not. I just would not say, oh yeah, that is for 100% as it will be, I'm totally fine to say it will absolutely help us. It will make work easier, but saying, oh yeah, AI can easily do it and we do not really need humans anymore to do that. That is where I say I don't know, you know?
Well,
Um,
we would certainly need a human to check the work that the AI did, to test it, to make sure it was good. I mean, it's not about taking away the human. It's about
yeah, sure. Yeah.
does the initial development path change?
Yes, I think so. And I agree on that. And that is what I said at the beginning. I think we're not at a point where we know what is the best context in that case for an AI, because I would say we're not, and with we like the world or tech in general, at a point that we could say, structure your information in this way, and then it will be perfect the next years for AI. That is why I think let's do it for humans first. And with everything we then have for humans, my assumption is an AI could create something that AIs could perfectly use to do implementations.
I mean, I'd love to hear what the line chain guys think, because I mean, I would just assume that you guys have started playing with AI for these changes, and maybe you already know if it does a good or bad job. Any thoughts?
One thing that comes to mind straight away is like when you use Cursor for, let's say, standard issues that come into the SDK. Most of them are easily resolved with AI. I think that a big bunch of these issues are like uh, slight changes, maybe in the API tweaks or something like that. So yeah, I think that everyone from the team is currently in some way using AI to uh, maybe make his work better and faster. And I think that Cursor works fine on a level, on a project level. So if you're a Java SDK developer, you would basically utilize like using Cursor and let's say Cloud Sonnet. And yeah, it's a hell lot of easier, but yeah, you would still need some specific tasks it can do. For example, I recently was a simple example, let's say, is I've recently been playing around creating WebAssembly support for the Rust SDK. uh, AI was far, far, far away from doing it on its own. So yeah, we are basically all using it, but yeah, we're still not. Uh, we still can't rely on it fully, I guess.
What about, I mean, I've not done this experiment, but what if I did an experiment where I said, hey, here is Hiero hooks. Here's the implementation of Hiero hooks in the JavaScript, Java, and Rust SDKs. Please look at these. Okay, please propose an implementation for Python SDK. I mean, I'm going to
Yeah.
assume it's not going to do a great job, but I don't know. Maybe it would do an okay job.
My
I agree.
opinion is. Sorry,
Go
Kendrick.
for it. It's ringing at my door. I'll be back in a second.
I think that just like a fair guess would be it won't do it even remotely close to what we expect because yeah, the models have progressed a lot, but there's some things which like when developers discuss, let's say we have our meetings with the team and let's say me and other developers meet up at the office and talk about stuff and discuss problematic scenarios and stuff like that. Let's say AI
isn't quite there yet. It can't participate in every aspect of software development. So it's kind of going to do a bad job. For example, in a complicated scenario like the hooks hip, if you have, let's say, something really trivial, like let's say um, a hip comes when you have to introduce like a new protobuf with some new API, I guess it's gonna do fine. But when there's a lot of business logic intertwined and other stuff like that, it probably won't do it, right?
Yeah, and I think that's probably true. I think my only thing is that's probably using like a general AI. If we had an AI that was trained around the Python SDK, would that do a better job? I don't know. I think the answer probably is for the next maybe year, probably like what you're saying, it would do a kind of a bad job. But to me, this does kind of seem like the future that we should be setting up for, is that eventually it will get better. Eventually, if you had an AI trained on the Python SDK, I think it could accelerate. It could probably do like a 60% good job and then just need a human to do the other 40%. But I don't know. I mean, that's my kind of thought.
Yeah,
I
it's
I think you're right.
yeah, me too. But um, we're kind of in some way already there because like in I don't know if you've used like the cursor IDE, but it basically has the context of your project. So if you're the Python SDK, let's say, and you can go and it will analyze everything you've got up until now, and it will know how to like implement other APIs which are similar or not so similar. Another thing I've used, like it's a hacky way to uh, learn SDK context is let's say I'm working on the Rust SDK and I just clone the Java SDK into that project and let the Cursor AI analyze the whole project, including the two projects inside the project. So let's say I have a folder in which I have the Java and the Rust SDK, and I open that project in Cursor, and the accuracy in which with which it generates code is raises a lot from my perspective. So we have it already. This thing you're talking about is uh, maybe not like implemented in a specific way and not marketed like a product and let's say SDK AI, but you can already do that, and it's not that hard, I think.
So then just to circle back, Henrik, my kind of idea would be that if we're going to go through the pain of doing a version 3.0 SDKs, then maybe we need to be real. Like as you can see here, like the LimeChain team is already extensively using AI. Maybe our focus for version 3.0 should be tooling that helps this kind of, I don't know, AI revolution. And maybe the APIs do that. Although I don't know, like maybe the APIs are really for human developers. Maybe AI won't care. Are there other tooling that we could be like metadata or other tooling that we could be putting into the SDKs that would support AI development? That's probably my question.
Are you talking about using the SDKs as an application developer, or are you talking about somebody extending the SDKs? Because I think that those are two different things.
Extending, or more importantly, the concept that we have a new feature, we have a design proposal, we have a reference implementation, and then AI can take that in a single SDK and support deploying it to all the other SDKs. Because that's our major pain point in SDK development today, is that we have a feature and we have to implement it across 5 different SDKs.
Yeah, yeah. I agree. And so my personal point of view here is that is nothing you need to think about when creating V3 and thinking about what should change from an API, from a flow perspective. I think here you do not really need to think about AI. When you need to think about AI is really, that's why I'm open this one here, right? So this, what we currently see on my screen, I think that is a very good example that you could give an AI and say, hey, let's do this in each and every language, the assumption is that entity ID is specified for each and every language quite well. And I assume that then, especially with if we have it well defined in this new Meta API language, with here a reference, a fake code, or I think it's JavaScript code, reference implementation, I assume that is something AI could do. So I think it's not that much about V3 in general. It's more about our documentation. And here it's again, I would say we do not know because that is what changes a lot. With what I would say in the last 3 months changes like 3 times with people came up. Hey, if you structure your documents like this and in that folder, then you have the BMAT method that is super perfect to extend something because the context is super clean. Then somebody else came with another concept. That is what I'm saying, that we are not at the point to know how do we structure the documentation the best to create the context we need to do that. But I agree with you that we should think about that, and I believe that AI will be a big help to do exactly that and spread a new functionality or implement a new functionality over X different SDKs. Georgie.
Yeah, so my take, Keith. So I think that you kind of need both. Like your question initially was, is it worth having this thing? So, because there are other solutions, we have like a future in which we have AI, and we should make data the easiest format for AI and for it to continue, I don't know, revolutionizing software development. But we basically, at least that's how I see it. Um, first things first is that, like Hendrik said, defining like a document like this and having, let's say, a legend for all the specifics like entity ID. A lot of AI projects currently pre-feed some specific words or instructions to AI before giving it specific data to analyze. So, for example, even by using, let's say, ChatGPT, you can preload some data. Let's say you give it what info for what our pseudocode construct is, and then it will do wonders if it knows all that data. And another thing, another argument to have this going on with documentation for developers is that we don't want, I don't know, in the next 5 years, it's not a good world in which you can see basically developers getting stupid and not having understandable data for themselves. So we need to stick to keeping things documented well enough for developers, and maybe adapt AI to also digest that information as well.
Yeah. And if I will only review in the SDK level and do not code on my own, but review and see that everything is good, I'm fine, you know? So yeah.
Okay. I mean, great. So thank you. Thanks everyone for your input. Yeah, I just want to give some input on what I was thinking, where my thinking is going, and I mean, I certainly see the value of this proposal. I'm just wondering how this supports the AI future. And then probably on the side as well, what other things could we be doing and maybe part of a 3.0 upgrade to support AI, like adding, I don't know, metadata or AI machine readable stuff. I don't know. Maybe I need to do more research on this, but that was my other just kind of thought.
Yeah. But I think I agree on that. And I think having this API specification, even if it's human readable, it's a concrete specification and even that having that in a context will for sure help to make the AI do a better work. That's my assumption here. And maybe
Yeah.
we can create out of that something that is like more machine readable and help AIs even better to do that, we will see. If that works, I'm happy to do so. Okay. Do we, just another topic, Keith, maybe you know it, or Georgie, do we have for those meetings the AI assistant activated so that we get like an agenda generated by Zoom or minutes generated by Zoom?
I know that
I don't
Google
think so,
has
but
that, but
I don't see it on, but maybe somebody could talk about it with Robert. I think this is his meeting, so.
Yeah, it's something Jessica need to do. But I mean, we can check it because what I've seen, if you go in the calendar, it's activated for some. I don't know why it's not activated for all. But let's go like 2 weeks back and go to, I don't know, what meeting we'll have it. Let's see. Here we go. So for the Python meeting, as an example, I can click here. And here I see the summary of the meeting generated by AI. And this is automatically then in the calendar. And let's see if we have it. No, I think we should activate it for those meetings to just have a summary for people that don't attend. What do you think about that?
yeah, in my
Yeah.
opinion, meeting which is not recorded has not happened at all.
Yeah. So I can just ask LF to activate at least this one. I don't know if we need to record it, but having that summary to know in general what we've talked about would be good, right? For example, for Rob now to know what happened today, as an example.
Yeah, that was my point as well. Not like a straight up recording, but notes and specific outlined, I don't know, things that started discussions and stuff like that.
I will write Jessica directly. Okay. Anything else?
No, I think that's it. Maybe it's a good place to end it. Thank you for the presentation, Hendrik.
Sure, absolutely. Then see you in the next Hiero meeting.
Bye.
Bye.